Welcome to the Betting Pros PGA podcast. I'm Pat Fitzmaurice, joined by Bo McBrayer. It's U.S. Open week, and the U.S. Open is returning to perhaps the most classic of all U.S. Open venues, Oakmont Country Club in Western Pennsylvania. Bo and I are here to give you a full betting preview of the third major of the year. We'll talk about Oakmont. We'll talk about the odds. We'll talk about what sort of form the top players are in and whether their games are suited to tame Oakmont. It's possible. We'll tell you who we're betting this week, and we will make one-and-done picks at the end of the show. First, we'll quickly recap the Canadian Open. Ryan Fox wins his second tournament of 2025. The New Zealander won a marathon sudden death playoff against St. Burns, clinching it with a birdie on the fourth playoff hole. Burns went out early on Sunday and posted an 8 under par 62 that got him the 18 under par. Then he waited for nearly 2 hours to see if anyone could catch him. Several players tried but failed. Cameron Young, Kevin Yu, Ben An, and others. But on the final hole of regulation, Ryan Fox rolled in a 17-footer to get to 18 under par and force a playoff. Fox's putt barely snuck in on the low side of the hole. Then Burns and Fox replayed the par 5 18th hole 3 times without breaking the tie. Both players made pars on the first 3 playoff holes. Fox would later refer to the first 3 playoff holes as a pillow fight, with neither player take charge. Tournament officials actually changed the hole location during the playoff, giving the 2 players a more accessible pin that didn't require as dangerous an approach shot over the pond, fronting the green. On the 4th playoff hole, Burns and Fox both went for it in 2. Fox hit his approach shot to about 7 feet. Burns hit his to about 40 feet. Burns then raced his eagle putt 10 feet past the hole. Then he lipped out the 10-footer for birdie. That gave Fox 2 putts from 7 feet for a win. He now has 2 titles in his PGA Tour career, and they both come this year. Fox also won last month's One Flight Myrtle Beach Classic, which also ended in a playoff. Fox chipped in to win a 3-man playoff in that one. Bo, Fox made me a little bit of money yesterday. Had a couple bucks, 80-1. One other note from the Canadian Open: 2-time Canadian Open champ Rory McIlroy was in the field. He finished 9 over par and missed the cut by 12 strokes. Yikes.
Not great.
Not great going into a major. Bo, what did you make of Ryan Fox's victory, and what do you think about the new Canadian Open host course, TPC Toronto at Osprey Valley?
Well, I mean, they're going to go back to another course road after next year, but they're going to repeat Osprey Valley next year, and it was pure bomb and gouge. Like, the top of the leaderboard was a who's who of bomb and prey type players, because there was no penal ref, there were no penalties ever for any wayward shots the whole week, and I'm surprised it was only 18 under. Some of the guys were having trouble putting on the greens, but it seemed like they were the guys who avoided 3 putts were the ones that scored the best. But it was a lot of bombers and a lot of guys with hot putters. Ryan Fox, not normally known for his short game, especially his putting, but he came through with one of the longer hitters out there and remarkably consistent through the week. Sam Burns' 62 on Sunday was impressive, though. That's a really, really good score, even on an easier golf course, especially when he was done way early. I was kind of rooting for Burnsy, but I didn't really have a horse in the fight. I didn't place anybody on that week. I luckily didn't bet too much because I was saving myself for the U.S. Open.
Yes, I've heard it's a big tournament, and especially big going back to Oakmont. You know, some of the new courses are nice, the LA Country Club and such, but I like the classics. And we will turn our full attention to the U.S. Open in just a moment. But first,
download the free BettingPros app for iOS and Android. With Sportsbook Sync, you can automatically track your bets across all major sportsbooks in one spot. Easily monitor your bet performance by sport and bet type, including game picks, props, and parlays. Go ahead and create your own custom betting system to find winning trends and profitable opportunities. Get your 7-day free trial of BettingPros Premium by downloading the app at bettingpros.com/apps using code JUICE, JUICE, and activating your trial on the upgrade screen.
So yes, it's back to Oakmont Country Club in Oakmont, Pennsylvania, which is in Western Pennsylvania, about 14 miles northeast of Pittsburgh. Oakmont opened in 1904 and was designed by Henry Fownes, the only course Fownes ever designed. And it really is a classic U.S. Open course. This will be the 10th time Oakmont has hosted.
Vintage.
Yes, vintage for sure. No other course has hosted it as many times as Oakmont. And Oakmont is really unique. It has no water hazards, just a couple of deep drainage ditches that are considered water hazards with regard to the rules. Oakmont was originally built as a links course. They added trees in the 50s and 60s, but the trees were mostly removed in the 2000s. Oakmont is known for its blazing fast POA greens. Putting on Oakmont's greens is like putting on a marble floor. And there are a lot of slopes to these greens too. So if you've got a downhill putt, good luck with that. Oakmont is also famous for its Church Pews bunker, which splits the third and fourth holes. It's 100 yards long and has rows of grass strips in the sand. Very iconic. The course will play as a par 70, measuring 7,372 yards. It's a long course, but not insanely long by U.S. Open standards. However, some of the individual holes are insanely long. The two par fives are both longer than 600 yards. The 12th hole will play to 632 yards. It actually played at 684 yards back in 2016.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. The 8th hole is a par 3 measuring 289 yards. And two of the par 4s on the back nine measure over 500 yards. There are also a couple of short holes. Number 2 is a 364-yard par 4. And number 17 is a par 4 measuring 312 yards, but it's a blind uphill tee shot to a green guarded by 5 very deep bunkers. The fairways at Oakmont, they're going to be tight. The rough is 5-inch thick Kentucky bluegrass, and if you find one of the fairway bunkers, you might not have a chance to hit the green with your approach shot. You might just have to come out sideways. Driving accuracy is going to be very critical this week. It's on a very, let's say, not flat patch of land, Oakmont is, so players are going to get all sorts of side hill, downhill lies with their, even with the balls they hit under the fairway. And back to those greens, not only are they fast, but they are huge. So lag putting is going to be important this week. In short, we're in for a wild ride, and the winning score might not be under par. In 2007, Angel Cabrera won the U.S. Open at Oakmont with a winning score of +5. The cut line was +10 that year. And when the U.S. Open was last played at Oakmont in 2016, Dustin Johnson finished 4 under par to win by 3 strokes over Shane Lowry, Jim Furyk, Scott Piercy. They were the only 4 players to finish under par. The cut line that year was +6. So all of this makes Johnny Miller's final round 63 at Oakmont in 1973 look pretty good. And yes, Oakmont was still a butt kicker back then. Right. Bryson DeChambeau is the defending U.S. Open champion, although he won at Pinehurst number 2 last year. The weather forecast this week calls for temperatures in the low to mid 80s on Thursday and Friday, with mild winds in the 5 to 10 mile an hour range. Saturday has thunderstorms in the forecast, along with slightly cooler temperatures in the 70s. There's also rain in the forecast for Sunday as well. The wind should be light on the weekend too, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Bo, give me your thoughts on Oakmont Country Club.
It's the quintessential U.S. Open golf course. The U.S. Open is my favorite tournament to watch every year. Father's Day weekend every year. It's always set up by the USGA to be brutally difficult. I love carnage. I love Oakmont carnage because it's carnage without a long golf course. This is a traditional, it's a treeless, waterless golf course that says, hey, hit it in the fairway or you're screwed. And then hit the green or you're screwed. And even if you do both of those things, you might still be screwed on these greens. They're gigantic. They're going to be running a 14 or 15 on the stimp meter, which is as fast as you're ever going to see on the PGA Tour. And they're used to seeing 12 and 13s pretty much every week. 15 on the stimp means that they hold it at a 45-degree angle. They let it roll down the little 1-foot ramp, and it rolls out 15 inches to a 12-inch drop. That means it's going to be lightning fast, like I'm putting on the hood of a Volkswagen. It's going to be, it's going to be fun to watch the best players in the world start to whine and cry about the tough conditions. Boo-hoo. Yeah, I love it. I want to see the winning score way over par. I want to see the cut line to be plus 15. I want it to be the hardest U.S. Open of all time. I want to see all of these guys cry. I want to see Scottie Scheffler throw clubs again. I want to see Jon Rahm maybe completely combust from his anger. I want to see all of these things happen. And at the end, I want to see the guy who comes out with most of his limbs intact holding that trophy. Oakmont, bring it.
I'll be honest, this is my third favorite major behind the Masters and the Open Championship.
Yeah.
But, Bo, when they play at a classic venue like Oakmont or Winged Foot, then the U.S. Open becomes, in my estimation, the equal of those other tournaments. Pinehurst, number 2 even. But, it's just, I didn't love the LA Country Club.
No.
Certainly didn't love Erin Hills in Wisconsin, which I actually attended, and I thought that was a pretty weak U.S. Open venue.
They can't all be Pebble Beach U.S. Opens either.
Yeah, give me Pebble, give me Oakmont, give me Winged Foot. So we will get to the U.S. Open odds in just a moment, right after Bo tells you about Novig.
Are you looking for a smarter way to play? There's a new sports trading platform that's changing the game. It's called Novig. It's legal in most states, including Georgia, California, and Texas. It's peer-to-peer, which means you're competing against other users, not the house. You can often get better lines than traditional books. You can set your own lines, which gives you control most sports books just don't offer. There's no commissions or hidden fees. Seriously. It uses a coin deposit system, but it's real money. And you can use code DAILYJUICE for 50% off your first coin purchase up to $25. Check it out now at bettingpros.com/juice. That's bettingpros.com/juice. And our colleague Mike Mayer is on it every single day. He's a Novig fanatic. He's always dropping screenshots, winning and losing screenshots, Mike, and picks in the Discord. If you have questions, reach out to Mike Mayer. He's happy to help.
Yeah, and hopefully more winners than losers for Mayer. He's actually pretty sharp when it comes to wagering.
Yeah, he's a braggart about it too. So yeah.
Now for the U.S. Open odds. All odds are courtesy of DraftKings as of Monday. Some of these odds may have changed by the time you consume this show. Scottie Scheffler opens as a heavy favorite. No surprise there. He's plus 275. Bryson DeChambeau is plus 750. Rory McIlroy and Jon Rahm are plus 1,200. Xander Schauffele is plus 2,200. Collin Morikawa is plus 2,500. Joaquin Niemann and Ludvig Åberg are plus 3,000. Tommy Fleetwood is plus 3,500. Justin Thomas is plus 4,000. And Tyrrell Hatton and Shane Lowry are plus 4,500. Let's talk about the favorites, Bo. Being cautious with Scottie hasn't worked for us lately. And one time in the last month that I bet him outright before the tournament, he didn't win. So are you?
And that was the only time he didn't win.
Literally the only time in the last month he hasn't won when I bet him before the tournament. Are you interested in taking him at plus 275?
Absolutely not. And yeah, I'm still going to keep fading the odds on Scottie. We love Scottie. I don't have anything bad to say about him. But the books are taking us all for suckers. They expect Scottie Scheffler to get a lot of money in on the books, and it's just a numbers game. They don't have to pay very much if Scottie wins. They hope Scottie wins, because as much as money as you're going to get on people betting plus 270, you're going to get even more money on people at longer odds that have no chance to win. And Scottie Scheffler, if he wins, plus 270, that they're paying nothing out. Unless you want to parlay Scottie with something else a little bit sure bet, like let's say you're an NBA fan. You want to bet on the Pacers to win Game 3, or you want to bet on the Thunder to win Game 3. Parlay that with Scottie Scheffler's plus 270. You might get a little bit bang for your buck that's better than the straight up odds that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. I'm going to start my betting at Rory McIlroy plus 750. Yeah, it's risky. We saw him play last week. He played his worst tournament of his career. He had his worst strokes gained rounds, the two worst strokes gained rounds since 2013 when he was a teenager. that should tell you all you need to know about where Rory's head was last week in a preparation week for the U.S. Open. He committed to the Canadian Open early. He stuck with it. Instead of going to the Memorial, he played terribly. His mind wasn't in it. He was looking ahead to Oakmont. I'm going to take that at face value and say that Rory's still a great fit for this golf course and still very live to win and going to give us much better odds of paying off at the plus 750 line.
And now he's plus 1,200. Bo, he drifted big time after.
I got to check this out again.
Yeah, so he drifted severely to plus 1,200 after the bad showing at the Canadian Open. My one issue with Rory, so obviously terrific season so far, wins at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am Players Championship, the Masters, but he was 47th at the PGA Championship. The tune-up at the Canadian Open was a disaster. I just wonder, Bo, if he is in this post-Masters hangover. And I feel like he'll come out of it. He'll take some Advil, get some greasy food in his stomach, be ready when the Open Championship goes to Northern Ireland and Royal Portrush. Like, I have no doubt he's going to be ready for that. Is he ready for this week? I don't know. I mean,
plus 1,200, I'm even more in than I was at plus 750.
Yeah.
I just looked at the wrong line. I guess I went cross-eyed looking at the odds just a minute ago because he is, in fact, at plus 1,200, and now I'm even more in love with him.
Yeah, I wouldn't even think about it at plus 750. At plus 1,200, I can understand why someone would want to pounce on that. As for Scottie, what's the one major he hasn't won so far, Bo? I mean, like, that's not
Open Championship.
Oh yeah, and but he's not won a U.S. Open, correct?
Nope, he's only won a PGA, and that was up until this year. He'd only won the 2 green jackets. So
I forgot he had not won an Open Championship either. Yeah, he finished second in 2022 at the Country Club. He's finished top 10 at the U.S. Open 3 of the last 4 years, although he did finish a disappointing 41st at Pinehurst last year. But yeah, plus 275.
Just saying. This is Oakmont. This is going to be where we're looking at a lot of different stats, like bogey avoidance, double bogey avoidance. And even though Scottie's number 1 in my model, he's 70th in putting. He's actually 100th in the proximity bucket I'm looking at, and 40th in 3-putt avoidance, which is going to be paramount with these gigantic, super fast greens. Where we've seen Scottie struggle putting are on the really fast greens. So I think there's something there. Obviously, if he wins, nobody's going to be surprised, including you and I. But when you come down to the very next people in my model, it's guys like Rory McIlroy and Jon Rahm at plus 1,400. Like, Jon Rahm's been playing great golf the last month. A lot better than Rory, actually.
Yeah. So Rahm, he was an amateur when he played the 2016 U.S. Open at Oakmont. Rahm tied for 23rd that year with a very respectable score of plus 6. It was obviously encouraging to see him play so well at the PGA. I can't get on board with him at 12-1 odds, Bo. I feel like
14 now.
All right. Well, I'm getting a little more interested. Okay.
Yeah. 12 on some books. I'm looking at 2 right now. One's 12, one's 14. Yeah, I'm with you. It's kind of teetering there on a decent line. I just think he's a great fit for the course.
So Rory's odds are drifting. Rahm's odds are drifting. Bryson DeChambeau's odds are tightening up. Unfortunately, he was at plus 1,200 last week. I'm kind of kicking myself for not taking him when I could have gotten that number. Now he's plus 750. He's finished top 5 in each of his last 6 events. That's 4 Live Tour events and the 2 majors of the year, 5th at the Masters, 2nd at the PGA. Bryson has finished top 6 in 5 of the last 6 majors. Bo, can Bryson overpower Oakmont?
No. Oakmont is overpowerable. That's not a word, but it is for all intents and purposes. Bomb and gouge is, you get half of that here. It does help to bomb it, but if you're not in these fairways, then you have no chance at reaching the green, no matter how far down there you are. None. If you're in a fairway bunker or in that 5-inch Kentucky bluegrass, you are not going to reach the green, whether your wrists are made of iron or not. So Bryson, if he hits those fairways and he's down there 350, 400 yards, absolutely can win this tournament. Rory McIlroy, same thing. These guys that have that advantage is completely null and void if you're not in the fairway. and these fairways are tight. So yes, we need guys who are long and straight, because gouging it out is not going to be towards the green in any fashion. Gouging it out is going to be trying to get it back into the short grass so you can scramble to make par or even bogey. On some of these holes, bogey is a very good score.
All right, let's talk about Xander Schauffele at plus 2,200 and Collin Morikawa at plus 2,500. So Xander has played 8 U.S. Opens in his career and has placed top 10 in all but one of them. His worst finish in a U.S. Open, a tie for 14th. But Schauffele hasn't exactly been challenging for wins lately. Not that he's been in bad form, just not really contending.
He's the quintessential grinder. Like he and Collin are polar opposites. You'd say, oh, Collin looks good on this course because obviously fairways and greens are huge here. But Xander is the grinder. Xander's the guy who can miss some fairways and miss some greens and get out of it unscathed compared to the other people in this field. If Collin's game is on, he can win. But if his game is off, he's got no chance. Xander could be at 85% form and still win this thing because he's just got that firepower, that grinded out mentality. I think that it's a fragile footing to bet on Collin Morikawa, but he does have a good chance, especially at plus 2,500. Xander plus 2,200, that is so tempting because the tougher the course gets, the more he kind of rises to the top anyway. That's why his record at the U.S. Open is so good, is because when things get really nasty, Xander Schauffele is a dog. Like, that guy does not buckle down under pressure. He just focuses harder and he makes it happen. So give me Collin because the number's a little better, and we've seen Collin play progressively better this season, and Xander's kind of idling. So I'll take Collin, but if Collin gets off to a bad start, you can pretty much write him off because he's not going to have the mental fortitude to recover from a bad day or even a bad hole.
Yeah, statistically, he's a great fit, though. Ranked second in tour in driving accuracy, one of the best iron players in the world. He's 6th in strokes gained and approach. But yeah, Morikawa hasn't really contended in any event since the Arnold Palmer Invitational in March.
Yeah.
Now, you want to talk about coming into a tournament hot, Bo. Joaquin Niemann just won his 4th live event of the year and had his best finish ever in a major at last month's PGA, finishing 8th. And oh, by the way, in winning this live event, he just routinely fired a 63 on Sunday to come from behind. So yeah, Niemann hasn't made a lot of noise at major.
Not bad for a 3rd round score.
Yeah, exactly. Only 3 rounds in the live event. So still pretty impressive.
I jab, but I'm also laughing because it's still a legit golf tournament with a very legit competition.
Yes. And now Ludvig Åberg is starting to show signs of life after going quiet following this year's Masters. He finished 16th at the Memorial and 13th at the Canadian Open. What do you think of Niemann and Åberg?
Niemann more than Åberg. Åberg's short game still worries me. His short approach very much worries me. This is another. It's very similar to Morikawa, where from tee to green you don't really worry about Åberg, but if one little thing is off kilter on a golf course like this that has so many penalty areas or just punishing wayward shots on the scorecard, Ludvig Åberg is not good at avoiding double bogeys. He's good at avoiding bogeys, but there's a difference there. Oakmont, like on regular run-of-the-mills tour, like last week, RBC Canadian Open, I weighted bogey avoidance and didn't even think about double bogey avoidance. This course, I'm actually weighing both of them because they're 2 completely different metrics. It's like there's avoiding a quote-unquote bad score, and then there's avoiding the cataclysmic score, which is around every little corner and nook and cranny at Oakmont. No trees, no water. You still have no outs. If you're off one shot, it's gonna cost you 2. And Ludvig Åberg is 64th in this field in double bogey avoidance. Joaquin Niemann, not a lot of data to go with because he's playing a lot fewer rounds. But what bugs me about Niemann the most, let me pull him back up right here, is he's just not good on approach. Everything about his game says, if you're saying, oh, I'm good off the tee to green, he's 8th, 14th in bogey avoidance. He's not good in double bogey avoidance either, 56th. 104th in scrambling, which parlays with 157th in proximity at 150 and in. And we're going to have a lot of short approach shots. Honestly, because this course is long average length, you're going to have a lot of short approach shots when you're in the fairway. And he's dead last in both of those little proximity buckets. So Niemann better be good on short iron approach, and he better be really good, dialed in better than ever at avoiding blow up holes. Because all those majors up until the last major he was in, where he was finishing 8th, he had never finished better than 30th in any major until then, because he always had either one bad day or 2 or 3 really bad holes, and he was out of contention. Great player. I don't know that he has what it takes to win a U.S. Open. For me, it's just way too short for a guy who's shown no propensity at all in his very long career to do well in majors up until the PGA.
Yeah, not that long. Still in his 20s, right? So
he's still young, but he's been playing a long time.
Yes. Now, one more got to mention from this group. It should be noted that Shane Lowry was the 54-hole leader when the U.S. Open was last played at Oakmont in 2016. Unfortunately, he went 6 over par on Sunday and finished 3 shots behind winner Dustin Johnson.
And guess who I bet on that week?
Lowry. Oh yeah, I mean, he's just not made for Sundays at majors, and I don't know if he can putt well enough to contend.
I'm still betting him at 50-1 though.
Really interesting.
Yes.
All right, let's run through more of the odds. We have Sepp Straka at plus 5,000, Patrick Cantlay and Brooks Koepka at plus 5,500, Corey Connors and Viktor Hovland at plus 6,000, Russell Henley at plus 6,500, Ben Griffin, Jordan Spieth, and Hideki Matsuyama at plus 7,000, Sam Burns is plus 8,000, and at 100-1 odds are Daniel Berger, Aaron Rai, Tony Finau, Patrick Reed, Keegan Bradley, and Harris English. Does anyone stand out from this group, Paul?
Sammy Ballgame should have won the Canadian Open. He is a dog. 3-putt avoidance, bogey avoidance, double bogey avoidance, pretty accurate off the tee. And right now, right this minute, approach game, not that bad. If Sam Burns can get near the hole on some approach shots this week, he's going to be live. And with his putting stroke, his short game, his recovery game, Sam Burns at 90-1 right now. That's pretty darn good. I think I'll take that. That's a guy who can get hot. Very good grinder. Just at avoiding those big blow-up holes. His approach game is his weak spot, but at the same time, I'm not too worried about it because he's number 1 in both putting metrics and strokes gained putting on fast greens, and number 1 in 3-putt avoidance, 14th in scrambling. And it's just everything I'm looking at with Sam Burns. The only thing that scares me is approach, and lately it's been better. I love that number. I love the way he's coming into this tournament. A little bit of anger because he had many chances to win that tournament on Sunday and just didn't quite have enough in the playoff holes to beat Ryan Fox, which I thought I couldn't believe it. I was so blown away by all the chances that Burns had to vanquish Fox. The Kiwi just kept slipping through the cracks with terrible pars on that par 5 hole. And Burns just couldn't get out of his own way. I think Burns is a live bet to win this thing at 90-1. And Keegan Bradley, 100-1. Long irons, short irons, grind it out mentality. Captain America himself. I go with my guy Keegan Bradley. That's so much fun to look at those odds and say, hey, that's a guy who's fun to root for.
Their games are sort of polar opposite in a way.
They are
just not that great tee to green, but maybe the best putter in the world, at least at the moment.
Yeah.
And by the way, Burns did finish 9th in last year's U.S. Open at Pinehurst. So he seems like he's made for this. And as you said, Bo, I think top 20 in 4 of his last 5 events. Keegan Bradley has not really fared all that well at U.S. Opens throughout his career. He's had 2 top 10s, but also 5 missed cuts. But his tee to green game has just been on point this year. The putting, not so much. So
he's streaky.
Now, what about Let's talk about Sepp Straka and Patrick Cantlay. Straka's missed the cut in the first two majors of the year, and his best finish in his last three U.S. Opens was a tie for 56th. But Straka's having a really nice season. His game seems like it's a good fit for Oakmont. He ranks 15th in driving accuracy, third in strokes gained and approach, 17th in putting. Oh, and he has already won in Pennsylvania this year at the Truist Championship. And then you've got Patrick Cantlay, his last four U.S. Open finishes 15th, 14th, 14th, and 3rd. He was 12th at the Memorial, which was the last event he played, and not dissimilar to a U.S. Open. But he's 61st in strokes gained putting this year, and he's outside the top 125 in scrambling. Any of those guys interest you?
I'm looking at the odds. They're similar now. I think that you're going to start to see more action on Cantlay than Straka, and that making Cantlay shorter than he already is. Cantlay's short game 118th around the greens. That worries me, especially since his approach is good, but not as good as Straka. I think I'll take Straka at face value with that odds difference, because although both of them are awful around the greens, which is going to be very important this week, if they're not hitting the right spots on these greens, they're going to have to be wearing out their short game. Wearing it out is going to be the key. Straka is 12th on approach, and all these buckets look really good. He's 17th in 3-putt avoidance, which is going to be great. Better than Cantlay at bogey avoidance, although they're both strong there. I think they're both valuable picks. I just think Straka, with the odds difference being a little bit longer and playing a little bit better this year, I think I'll take Straka at face value, but I'm not really interested in betting either one of them right at this point. I just think if you're going to give me a choice, I'll take Straka.
Speaking of awful around the greens, Bo, we can't bet Viktor Hovland at 60-1, can we?
A lot of people are, and it's because he's so good from tee to green, but I don't know, man. He's a head case. And so can he show up like he did at the Valspar and win somehow? Of course he can. He's Viktor Hovland. I just don't know that he has the ticker up top there to come through 4 days in a row. That's the tough part. Viktor is good for 2 or 3 really strong rounds, but he might throw in an 80+ round this week, and that's what's going to sink him.
2 more guys I want to talk about. Ben Griffin coming in red hot, obviously. Last 3 tournaments, he was 8th at the PGA. He won the Charles Schwab Challenge, and he was runner-up to Scottie Scheffler at the Memorial. And I really like Harris English this week at 100-1, Bo. We've talked about how he's a grinder who's always at his best on the toughest courses. He's had 3 top 10 finishes in the last 5 U.S. Opens, and English was second at the PGA last month. What about players with odds longer than 100-1, Bo? Who's capable of surprising us and giving bettors a big payoff?
I'm just gonna go with one guy. A lot of my betting money is gonna go towards the top with Rory and Jon Rahm and Collin Morikawa, Shane Lowry, those guys that we've already mentioned. But Denny McCarthy, for some reason, just completely shot to the top. Great short game, great putter, and honestly, a really decent tee to green game this season. This is a Denny McCarthy guy who's dangerous when you're having to grind it out. When I ran my first model with no filters for difficult scoring relative to par and fast and lightning speed greens that we're going to see, he wasn't anything special. But as soon as I filtered for difficult conditions with lightning fast greens, look at Denny McCarthy shoot to the top, because he's so good around and on the greens that when things get really tough, that's where you lean on. That's where these guys score. That's where I think Scottie Scheffler falls short this week, is because when things get really nasty on and around the greens, is those strengths that he has on approach and around it are just, they're neutralized. Is these greens are so big, you have to be super close and below the hole all the time. I think if you take away all the other ancillary stats like driving distance and strokes gained off the tee, which I don't think is as valuable this week, Denny McCarthy is top 10 in 6 of my categories, and he's 150-1.
He shows up at U.S. Opens too, Bo. He's in his last 3, he's finished 7th, 20th, and 32nd.
He's a grinder.
He is a grinder indeed. I'll mention 3 more. So we have Taylor Pendrith at 120 to 1. He's had 4 top 10s this season and has played pretty well of late. He ranks 4th in strokes gained off the tee and 35th in strokes gained on approach. I'm surprised you didn't mention this guy, Bo. Akshay Bhatia, 150 to 1. Finished 16th at Pinehurst last year in what was only his second U.S. Open. He's reasonably accurate off the tee, good on approach, top 15 in strokes gained putting this season. And just because you didn't come through with a guy with super long odds, Bo, I have to mention at least one. Emiliano Grillo is 24th in driving accuracy, 34th in strokes gained on approach. His U.S. Open history isn't great, but he's had a top 15 finish at the PGA and a top 20 at the Masters. So he's got a little tiny bit of majors pedigree.
Yes.
All right, Bo. So who's on your early betting card for the U.S. Open as of right now?
All right, so I got Rory McIlroy at plus 1,200, Jon Rahm plus 1,400 is where I got him. Collin Morikawa plus 2,700 is where I got him, but he's going at plus 25 right now. Shane Lowry at 50 to 1, Sam Burns 90 to 1, Keegan Bradley 100 to 1, and Denny McCarthy 150 to 1.
All right, riding the high of my Ryan Fox fumes from the Canadian Open, I'm playing it a little bit different, Bo. I'm going kind of off vibes this week, and I'm going to take Bryson even at plus 750. Again, mad at myself I didn't take him at 12 to 1 last week when I could have had him, but I obviously think Scottie Scheffler is a better chance to win. But Bryson at plus 750 seems like a better value proposition than Scottie at plus 275. So
Absolutely.
Here's hoping. I know Oakmont is not a bomb and gouge course, but I didn't think Wingfoot was a bomb and gouge course either, and Bryson made it work. Joaquin Niemann at plus 3,000. He's just been so good lately, and his top 10 at the PGA seemed to, I don't know, it seemed like a good indicator that he's ready to start contending in majors. Ben Griffin is on such a heater. I'm taking him at plus 7,000. A little worried that he doesn't hit enough fairways, but I'm also going to take him for a top 5 kicker at plus 900. Harris English, I'm all over at 100 to 1. The top 5 kicker at 12 to 1 and a top 30 at plus 115. The dude has never missed the cut in a U.S. Open. So I like that top 30 bet quite a bit. And I'm going to throw a buck or two each on Akshay and on Emiliano Grillo at Akshay 150 to 1, Grillo 400 to 1.
Yeah.
Now for our one and done picks, Bo took native Canadian Corey Connors in the Canadian Open. He finished tied for 27th, won Bo $64,354. I had Robert McIntyre. He tied for 36th, good for $44,660. Not a lot of blood. Bo still has a big lead, but I'm up first this week. I'm going to take Bryson DeChambeau. Who are you taking, Bo?
I'm going to go and use up one of my live characters that I'm hoping doesn't go completely nuclear in the wrong direction. I'm going with the fiery Spaniard, Jon Rahm.
Rahm. For a second, I don't know. I had a feeling that you were going to take our guy, Tyrrell Hatton, who we didn't really talk about. Any interest in him whatsoever, or no?
Not at his odds. They're too short.
Yeah, too short. And I don't really like the personality for a major. I just don't know if he can keep it together deep down the stretch if things are close. Before we go, Bo, your prediction for a winning score at Oakmont this week.
I have a hope and a prayer that it's +8 as the winning score, but I'll predict +4.
Oh, you're such a sadist. I'm going to say someone... I'm going to say one or two players get under par this week. I'm going to go with -2.
-2, very good.
I know that would make you deeply unhappy, so I apologize for taking such.
If it's -2, I hope it's just one guy that breaks par like that, and he just runs away because it's a spectacle of just incredible golf. That's what it takes to be -2. It is definitely possible, but it's going to take a really special 4 rounds to do that.
Yep, you got to be playing lights out to go under par at Oakmont for 4 rounds. And that's all for this week's Betting Pro PGA podcast. Good luck with your U.S. Open wagering, and please come join us again next week when we will be previewing the Travelers Championship. Until then, so long, everyone.